Welcome back, guys. Week 5 of our season is in the book, and we did it again. We got another upset win, and this time it was a complete blowout against the Bengals. Before we get started, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications down below, and let's get straight into talking about what happened in that last game. We are making our presence known as we finish this week with a statement win, 56-28 against the Cincinnati Bengals. We just had everything working right for us, but before we get to talking about us, let's talk about what was working for the opposition. The Joe Burrow-led passing attack started out hot to start the day, and it's what we expected as he was coming off a 5-touchdown performance the week prior. But he had a few turnovers on the day, which we will get into in a bit, and no matter how impressive he was, if you can't play defense, you can't win games. In the first quarter, his go-to guy was the former Viking, Irv Smith Jr. He continued to make big plays, getting nice yardage after the catch, and he came away with the first score on the day. The guy who got the most involvement for them was T. Higgins. He is obviously one of the best number 2 wide receivers in the league, and he proved it today, finishing with 10 receptions on the day, crossing the 100-yard mark, and coming away with a touchdown as well. But no one can replicate the pure receiving ability Jamar Chase possesses. He led their team in receiving yards once more and continued to draw our attention all day, whether he was the focal point of their offense this game or not. And before we leave their offense, we need to talk about their best play of the day, and it came from Tyler Boyd. He only had 2 catches on the day, but this one, he had to end the first half, was pure insanity, as he somehow broke away from 3 defenders and took it all the way for a 50-yard touchdown pitch and catch. Even their run game is working well, as Joe Mixon had himself a very solid day, especially in an offense where the ground game is secondary. He finished the day just under 75, a solid average, and he got himself in the end zone early on as well. But the Cincinnati O-line could not hold up against the pass rush. Arizona won that battle in the trenches today, and between the run and the pass, they got home for a loss 10 times on the day. Let's start with the former Seahawk, L.J. Collier. He got home in the middle of the first quarter, just as the game was tied up, and he was not fooled by the play action. And when no one picks you up, it makes your job as a pass rusher that much easier. Next up is Clelin Ferrell. He combined with Lawrence late in the third, as Lawrence drove Burrow off his spot, and they both got to Burrow and took him down for the big loss. And his second was even more impressive, as he actually took to the air and speared Burrow to the ground. Amazed he didn't earn himself a roughing the passer call, but we will take the highlight play nonetheless. And lastly, the guy we signed to a big-time extension a week ago, Bryce Huff. He had a dominant drive in the second quarter as he got home once matched up against the backup tackle. And then later, that same drive, he gives Cameron Thomas a massive assist as Huff wraps up Burrow as he's trying to escape. He punches the ball out, and Thomas scoops it up and takes it 49 yards for the scoop and score touchdown. And that pressure also forced some bad, quicker throws, which ended in 2 interceptions. The first went to Xavier Rhodes, who had a big pick last week, and he got an even better one here as he cut off Chase on his break, secured the ball, and took it back 47 yards, and he was just barely tackled out at the 1, just missing that pick 6. And a little preview of our offense while we're talking about that, as that would lead to the very next play, where Tyson Williams lined up at fullback, they hand off to him, and he punches it in to secure the touchdown. But the other interception came from Budda Baker. It came to start the second half as he shades inside on Higgins and rips it straight away for him to allow his team to continue to extend the lead. Now, it's time for the offense, and the story of the day was our playmakers were proving their worth. As with just 15 completions on the day, they got Colt McCoy over 300 yards through the air and a monster 5 passing touchdowns. Now, let's go score by score to show their production. And our scoring started with the rookie, Michael Wilson. He only had 3 catches on the day, but he came away with a touchdown grab by running a perfect comeback route to keep him just inside the end zone. The next came from Trey McBride as we ended the first quarter, and this may very well have been the play of the day, as McBride caught this ball broke off a tackle, got great acceleration and split two defenders, and then took it 48 yards to go all the way for the touchdown. Very similar to the Boyd score in the same game. Now, after the Williams score and the fumble return touchdown, it was then the final 2 minutes of the first half, and McCoy fired a rocket into Moore, who ate a shot but held on to get the point total up to 35. Then, later in the third, Williams found himself back on the board as we ran a perfect play action to get him wide open, and he picks up the very easy touchdown reception. And lastly, we entered a lot of backups in the fourth quarter, including David Blau, who had a short but solid day, going 3 for 4, and he even put up a final touchdown on the scoreboard. And that touchdown went to our last-minute preseason acquisition, KJ Hamler, and he snatched this one away as Blau threw a ball up for the pile, and Hamler was the one to go and get it for the final touchdown. And coming out of this game, we went over to the weekly awards, and look at that. Colt McCoy named NFC Offensive Player of the Week with his massive game, and he has all of his playmakers to thank for this one. Now, there was an injury sustained in this past game. One of our defensive tackles, Carlos Watkins, he left in the first quarter, and after being evaluated, the training staff diagnosed him with an abdominal tear, and that will be keeping him out for the next 3 games. Now, it is time for us to take a look at the news headlines for the stories around the league. We have 2 very big matchups to look forward to this week. The first is an AFC versus NFC matchup in which 2 of the most talented teams in the league go head-to-head. And the second is the Ravens taking on the Titans, and it is a battle of 2 of the best rushing attacks the league has. And when you have 2 teams that love to run the ball and chew the clock, the game can end up going either way very quickly. And Tennessee is coming off a huge divisional win in which they locked down the Colts on the road 24-3. The Raider defense had a feast this week as they welcomed the Packers into their building, and they got to Teddy Bridgewater 5 times to get sacked. It looks like the Chiefs took a major loss this past week as they gave up a fourth quarter comeback to the Minnesota Vikings, leaving everyone in Kansas City completely stunned. We went back to the renegotiation table, and now we got some new focuses. We started with Hollywood Brown. He has been great so far this year, showing up in big moments, and we want to lock him up to keep him here for years to come. We started by giving him a 3-year offer worth $36.3 million, and he did not like it at all, and told us he didn't like a single thing. So just the first step in the process. Next up was Isaiah Simmons, and we saw how important his flexibility is to this team as he filled in amazingly when Thompson went down, and he's been great in his sub-linebacking role. And we started with a low offer for him as well, going with a 3-year deal worth $18.6 million. And he said literally everything about this needs to improve. So that means no new deals for the week. We then found our way back to the coaching talent trees, and we stayed focusing on our head coach. We decided to do the first upgrade for Road Grader, which will increase the XP gains for left and right guards by 5%. We know we need to improve the line, and hopefully we can grow that through the draft. But now we can focus on our upcoming game, which we return to NFC West action, in which we travel to LA to take on the Rams. Currently last place in the division, but it is a tight race, and this Rams squad can work out a win any day. And they are coming off last week where they did just that and found a 3-point win against the defending NFC Conference champs in the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a very even game on both sides of the ball, and the only thing that could separate the 2 on the day was a single field goal. But now, let's talk about their key players to watch out for, and it all starts with Cooper Kupp. One of the best receivers in the league, he is coming off a year in which was cut short after suffering an ankle injury in Week 10, and he is one of, if not, the best route runners at the position, and he is only 2 years removed from his Offensive Player of the Year campaign in which he took the Triple Crown in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. And when he's drawing attention, the next best guy they look to is their tight end, Tyler Higbee, a very reliable pass catcher, currently in his 8th year in the league, and he's coming off his best game in the year, in which he picked up 80 yards and got 2 touchdowns in their big-time win. On defense, you can't talk about the Rams without starting with Aaron Donald. One of the greatest defenders to ever play the game. He is a perennial Pro Bowler, a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, a Super Bowl champion, and he is a threat every single play, matching up against the opposing offensive line, so expect a lot of double teams to go his way. And their anchor in the defensive backfield is safety Jordan Fuller. He was sidelined for a majority of the season last year due to a hamstring injury, but he was a key part of this unit the season prior when they won Super Bowl 56, and he racked up over 110 tackles on that season. Before setting our game plan, we got a text from Hollywood Brown, and he said he really appreciated us involving him in the game plan last week. He said it gets boring running routes and not getting the ball, but if we keep throwing it his way, he believes he has the potential to be one of the best players on this team, and he only needs the opportunity to prove it. And with that, we set a goal for him to either get 3 touchdowns or 150 all-purpose yards. After that, we met up with Michael Wilson in the locker room, and he said he hasn't been as productive as he was hoping this year, and having a big game might help him get back on track. And we said we hear him and completely understand. We're going to do our best to get him involved during the game, keep his head up, and be ready to make plays. He thanked us, saying he knew we would understand, and he really appreciates us making the extra effort to help get him involved. And so his goal was to get over 100 receiving yards on the day. And lastly, we had our weekly press conference, and when facing a divisional rival, a lot of attention gets drawn up. A reporter said, "You're facing a bitter rival in the Rams, and limiting the impact of Aaron Donald must be a top priority." He asked, "How are we going to stop him?" We said Aaron Donald is a fantastic player, and we don't think there's a true way to stop him. Our only hope is to slow him down and pray he doesn't wreck our game. It was then time to set the game plan for the week. Starting on defense, we know how quickly Stafford and company can get hot, and to prevent that, we are going to focus on defending the short pass. Stopping the easy throws doesn't let them get their momentum going and force them to take shots against the secondary I am very confident in. On offense, everyone knows the key is stopping Aaron Donald, and that risk becomes even greater with their play calling, as they are one of the most aggressive teams in the league, falling in the top 3 for blitzes called. So our focus is going to be countering the blitz, getting the ball out quick, and picking up extra rushers. And with that, we are now ready to set our goals for the week. Adding on to our receiver goals, we want to win the turnover battle. In rough division games, a lot of times, the difference maker is turnovers. So if we can win that battle, we have a good chance of coming out of this with a W. Next up, we want to put up 350 offensive yards. Our focus is to get both Hollywood and Wilson a lot of production this week, and that equally means we are going to be looking to put up a lot of yards. Following that, we want to hold them to 14 points. Although they are capable of going off, if we play our cards right, we can keep them contained, and beating 2 touchdowns isn't asking too much from our offense. And lastly, if we're looking to get both of our top receivers big days, why not focus on getting 2 passing touchdowns as well? We might as well cap off their days by getting them scores. Following practice this week, both us and the Rams avoided further injuries, but we did see more growth from a lot of our key players. We start with our lead running back, James Conner. He's been very consistent so far this season, and he improved in his awareness, ball carrier vision, carrying, and trucking. After that, we had our defensive end, Bryce Huff, a guy having a career year this year, and he has a ton of growth this week, proving in his acceleration, awareness, tackling, finesse, and power moves. And lastly, we had our rookie corner, Garrett Williams. He has had an up and down year playing as our slot corner, and this week, he improved in his man coverage and his press ability. And the last thing I want to mention before we leave here today, BJ Ojulari has been cleared to return to action, and he will be back in the lineup this week. A massive announcement for us, as we have discussed everything we have needed and we are ready to head into our next game. If you guys enjoyed, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications down below, and I will see you all next time as we head into SoFi Stadium to take on the Rams.